Putin plans to officially declare war. Amazon battles with unions, and the Supreme Court may overturn Roe v. Wade. That and more on this week's headlines. America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. The CIA has announced that Russians who are opposed to Putin's invasion of Ukraine can contact them via the darknet. According to a CIA official, it's not safe to directly engage Americans physically or virtually in Russia. For those people that want to engage with us securely, this is the way to do it. As if the CIA wasn't shady enough, they're now literally telling people to reach out to them through the dark web. This is like a guy in a trench coat saying he can help you with your problem. All you have to do is blindfold yourself and enter his unmarked van. The CIA even posted instructions in Russian on their Facebook page for how to access the darknet. This is great for Russians opposed to Putin's invasion of Ukraine, but it's also great for Russians in favor of Putin's invasion. Because now they also know how to access the darknet, which is the best place to buy extra weapons. Crackerjack job there, CIA. Speaking of Putin's invasion of Ukraine, according to U.S. and Western officials, Putin may officially declare war on Ukraine on May 9th, which marks Russia's victory day over the Nazis in World War II. You might be thinking to yourself, wait, this war in Ukraine that's been going on for months isn't a war? No, Putin has been referring to it as a special military operation. I guess because he didn't want anything serious, but now he's ready to commit and make this Facebook official. Putin's with it. He's hip. Putin is choosing Russia's Victory Day to make this announcement because he says the whole point of this operation, and soon to be war, is to denazify Ukraine. It may be worth noting that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is Jewish, but that doesn't matter, according to Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who said Hitler also had Jewish blood, which isn't true. But even if it were, that's completely irrelevant, because Zelensky is not a Nazi. He's a comedian, and everyone knows Nazis have no sense of humor. Israel demanded an apology for the Russian minister's remarks, so Russia responded in the most level-headed, logical way possible, by saying that Israel is supporting neo-Nazis. Look, is there an alarming, growing network of neo-Nazis in Ukraine, specifically in their armed forces? Yes. But you know where else there's an alarming, growing network of neo-Nazis? Practically everywhere, including in Russia, where German neo-Nazis went to get paramilitary training. Russian leaders also allegedly sent neo-Nazis to Ukraine to fight back in 2014. You know, people living in Nazi houses shouldn't be throwing Nazi stones. And accusing Israel, of all places, of supporting Nazis? I can't believe this guy is real. My guess is he's actually cake. More after the break. Welcome back. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee called off all executions for the remainder of the year in the state, so a review could be done on lethal injection procedures. A federal public defender said the use of compounded drugs in the context of lethal injection is fraught with risk. The failure to test for endotoxins is a violation of the protocol. Governor Lee did the right thing by stopping executions because of this breach. So for the remainder of the year, Tennessee won't kill anyone by lethal injection. They'll only kill them in their usual way, barbecue and opiates. The Chattanooga treat. Speaking of things being killed in America, the middle class. The Federal Reserve raised interest rates by 0.5%. That's the biggest interest rate hike in 22 years. And this is after the Fed raised interest rates by 0.25% in March. They're doing this to try and combat inflation. Of course, the actual cause of inflation is not low interest rates. The actual cause of inflation is the Federal Reserve printing too much money so the government can spend money it doesn't have. Treasury Secretary and former Fed Chair Janet Yellen acknowledged that this week, saying Biden's spending did feed inflation. These interest rate hikes will make it more expensive to get a loan, though, for things like a house and a car. So essentially, to help ease inflation that's crushing the middle class, they're going to do something that will crush the middle class. I'm just joking. There isn't a middle class to crush anymore. They're punishing everyday Americans for mistakes made by the government and the Federal Reserve. This would be like if your parents cut your allowance because they made a bad bet at the horse track, but the money they took from your allowance, they funneled up to the 1%. Pre-K through third grade children in D.C. elementary schools were given an anti-racism workbook, where one of the questions asked them to identify racist family members. This is ridiculous. Obviously, it's Uncle Steve. Every family has a racist Uncle Steve. Children as young as 4 were given this workbook, which they refer to not as a workbook, but as a fight club, which is a bit ironic since they want kids to talk to family members about this. You remember the first rule of Fight Club? And is it just me, or does 4 seem a bit young to teach kids to identify oppression faced by Black and Indigenous people of color when most 4-year-olds can't even identify the color of the crayon they're eating? Last month, workers at an Amazon warehouse in Staten Island, New York, voted to unionize. However, that vote could be overturned by the National Labor Relations Board after Amazon challenged it in court over alleged voter suppression and influencing. According to an Amazon spokesperson, "We want our employees to have their voices heard, and in this case, that didn't happen. Fewer than a third of the employees at the site voted for the union." Fewer than a third voted. That's actually a great turnout. Less than a quarter of the U.S. population voted for Joe Biden, and he received the most votes in history. Even worse, far fewer people voted to make Chase Beckham the winner of American Idol when Grace Kinsler was clearly the superior choice. Not voting has consequences, people. Meanwhile, workers at an Amazon warehouse in New York City voted against unionizing this week. What was the turnout in that election? I'm sure Amazon will want to overturn this election too, since so few people voted, right? After all, they want their employees to have their voices heard. Actually, when Amazon says they want your voice to be heard, they're just talking about Alexa recording everything you say. One thing that likely won't make pro-union Amazon workers happy is Amazon announced they won't give employees paid time off for COVID anymore. Workers who test positive will receive up to 5 days of excused but unpaid leave. Great. This will just incentivize people who need money to show up to work with COVID and spread it to others, which might not be the worst thing at Amazon, to be fair. After all, if every Amazon driver has COVID, they won't have to smell the stench from all the bottles they've been peeing in since they're not allowed to take bathroom breaks. One thing Amazon is offering employees, however, is up to $4,000 a year in reimbursement should they need to travel across state lines to receive an abortion. So if you work for Amazon and catch COVID, don't tell them that's why you're missing work. Instead, just tell them that you were receiving an abortion. I'm surprised Amazon is pro-abortion. After all, their entire business model is all about delivering. And after the break, the Supreme Court has its own secret take on abortion. Welcome back. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled unanimously that Boston violated a Christian camp's right by refusing to fly a Christian flag outside their city hall. Wait, the Supreme Court ruled unanimously? That's astonishing, since liberals and conservatives, even judges, never agree on anything. When it comes to the left and the right in this country, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard have a better relationship. The court case was about a government program that allows outside groups to fly flags outside City Hall. The question was whether or not these flags constituted government speech. According to Justice Stephen Breyer, we conclude that on balance, Boston did not make the raising and flying of private groups' flags a form of government speech. Assuming Boston keeps this program, this will likely set a precedent. Private groups now know they can fly whatever flag they want. The Satanic Temple immediately requested for one of their flags to be raised, which is just stupid. Stupid of me to not take advantage of this loophole. Time for me to request they fly a flag showcasing what I believe in most. Team Rory and Jess forever. Gilmore Girls is the hill I'm gonna die on. I know that's a hot take, so let's move on to something less controversial. Abortion. A leaked draft of a majority court opinion shows that the U.S. Supreme Court may be set to overturn Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey, two landmark cases that gave federal protection for abortion rights. In this first draft, written by Justice Samuel Alito, Alito says, "We hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled. It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives." So he's not saying abortion should be illegal. He's saying state legislators should be the one making laws about abortion. After all, according to the Constitution, lawmaking is the job of Congress, not the courts. Joke's on him, though. Congress's actual job is to do nothing. President Biden spoke out against this Supreme Court opinion, saying a woman's right to choose is fundamental and that this could create a radical shift on a litany of other issues.
Because one of the issues that this court, many of the members of the court, a number of the members of the court, have not acknowledged is that there is a right to privacy in our Constitution. What does this do? Does this mean that in Florida they can decide they're going to pass a law saying that same-sex marriage is not permissible? It's against the law in Florida? So there's it's a fundamental shift.
Look, I've made fun of Florida a lot on this show, but that seems like an unfair criticism of that state. Oklahoma or Mississippi, sure, but Florida? I wouldn't be surprised if they legalize marriage between humans and Pokemon. It's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Evie. Some have called this leak a grave, unforgivable sin that will lead to a destruction of trust among the justices and staff. Chief Justice John Roberts ordered an investigation into the leak and clarified this isn't the court's final decision. Republicans are also upset about the leak. Marco Rubio said it was meant to intimidate the justices on abortion. And left-wing groups are planning protests at conservative Supreme Court justices' homes next week. So, they're protesting a potential decision they say could lead to an invasion of their privacy by invading Supreme Court justices' privacy. Meanwhile, some Democrats called to end the filibuster, specifically so they could pass a law to protect abortion rights before Roe v. Wade is overturned. However, Democrats don't have enough votes to nuke the filibuster, as Democratic Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema said they would uphold it despite Sinema being pro-abortion herself. And Manchin pointed out, we've protected women's rights with the filibuster. If they get rid of the filibuster now, while they're in power, that just means they won't be able to use it to help their causes when they're no longer in power, say, after November. So that's where things stand for now. If abortion is no longer federally legal, people in states that make it illegal will need to go to great lengths should they want to receive one. Luckily, the CIA posted instructions on their Facebook page for how to access the darknet. I'm sure you should be able to find something there. Just brush up on your Russian first. So what do you think about the stories we covered this week? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, America Uncovered is supported mainly by viewers. Be sure to visit patreon.com/AmericaUncovered. Contribute $1 or more per episode. We do rely on your support to help us keep making great episodes. Or join our exclusive social media community on Locals. Check out AmericaUncovered.locals.com. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.